What's your journal trying to tell you beneath the words? If you've got years of diary entries, work logs, or daily notes, chances are there are patterns hidden in plain sight. Today, I'll show you how to turn raw word counts from your journals into visual insights without writing a single line of code. I call it Viz-Vibing, using Anthropic Claude to visualize word trends from your journal entries right inside their chat UI. Let's start by grabbing the dataset that we'll be visualizing.
I'm going to use this web app called Lifelogging.AI because it gives precise word counts. To get that, we'll go over to the chat UI and we will ask it to create a term trend dataset. So now it's created a dataset that has this kind of a format, and I could work with it right here, attaching it to a message, but instead we're going to just be downloading that so we can work with it in Claude instead. You might not even need to open that file to look at it, but if you did, this is what it might look like. You have one row per year, and each column giving the emotion word in this case, and for each cell giving the number of times that word appeared in some journal entry for that year. I asked for a max of 500 and it found something like 350 plus of those. So now let's go see what Claude can make of this. I attached that data set to a new chat using Claude, and then I asked it, please create the snazziest interactive data visualization from the attached dataset. So why did I say it that way? Well, I know from working with Claude previously that it is good at creating visualizations, but for this, to show off its ability to create interactive visualizations. And note, I didn't give it a lot of direction. In this case, I gave it free rein to show me something that it thought would be the most interesting, although in your case, you could give it guidance for exactly what you're looking for. So of course it comes back and says, oh, I'd be happy to do that. And this looks to be so fascinating. And it's basically telling you that it has an understanding of the data set. So it's going to start analyzing it. It's going to crunch away for a while. And while it's doing that, it's going to be showing you things like this. You don't have to click into these, but if you do, it'll give you some insight into what it's thinking about along the way. But then the first little hiccup occurs. Analysis timed out. So it says, let me try again. Again, another timeout issue. So it tries again. Finally, it says that it has created a visualization. This looks promising. But when I click on that, we see that there's actually an error. We can see down here, it says Claude hit the max length for a message and has paused. You can write continue to keep the chat going. So that's what I did. I typed in continue, hit enter. It comes back with a new version of that visualization, still having the error running the artifact. But in this case, all you have to do is copy and paste this. Tell it that you've gotten this error. So what did I do? I pasted in that error message and asked it to fix the error. It was thinking about this. It displayed some of that process. Finally, it says, okay, the visualization is now fully functional, and here's what it can do. Here's how it's organized. Here's some of the data insights. But let's first see how it actually works. So here we can click on that. And so here's a visualization down here, and it is interactive. Moreover, we can select a different chart type just by clicking up here, making it a bar chart, area chart, radar chart, biggest changes. Not only that, but it can do an absolute values or percent change. So super cool. It allowed me to look at the top 5 current emotion words, the top 5 changes. Let's go back to line chart so we can see what's going on there. The top 5 changed words. So the top 5 current words were things like great, security, glad, love, happy. You can also look at the words that changed the most over time, or the top 5 positive or negative, and look how it color coded those. Also, add and subtract words. Let's clear this. Okay, and now we're going to compare concern versus the topic of confidence, and compare and contrast how those two words trended over time. It also gives some of the key insights. It tabulates what the biggest increases were, biggest decreases, the top current emotions, and a sentiment analysis. All in this one visualization, all from me just doing this simple exercise of prompting it, and then a few iterations, having it fine-tune and tweak this and to fix a bug. However, no code, just Viz-Vibing. Now, what if I wanted to recreate this someday, and I wanted to do it again on a different dataset? I could just ask it, create a prompt that I can use in the future to recreate this visualization. It thought about that. It goes through the thinking steps, the thought process. This is what came up with. So I copied that, and then I added this to a new fresh chat. So this is what I did. I added the data set. You can see that it has the 27 rows. And here is that prompt that I had it create for me. It says, okay, I'm going to create that for you. It analyzes this, ends up having to try again, and that happens again. You can write continue to keep the chat going, which I did. It continues. This issue happened again. You can write continue to keep the chat going. So I do that. And this time it's thinking, it's telling me what it is doing. Let's see how well it did. Error running artifact. Another unexpected token. But I'm just going to tell it, can you please fix this error? And then above here is where I pasted in that error message. It's thinking. It says, I'll fix the error in the component. It's similar. It's got trending analysis, but it took some different design decisions to do this. You can select the top 3. It tells me all of what it did, what the key improvements are, what it can do, confirming that it included all the requested features. But I noticed there was a problem. When I clicked on %change, I saw these anomalous results. You could have just said, please fix the plot and tell it what you're noticing. I happen to know a little bit more about what is probably the issue. And so I gave it that hint. And so it said, I'll update the dashboard to better handle percentage changes. And here's what it did. Let's see if it can handle that now. When I press %change, and yes, it does it. One thing I noticed is that these values seem to be rising over time. There seems to be this upward trend over all of these values. In other words, it's biased upwards over time. I suspect that is because of my journaling behavior changed over time. I was journaling more frequently in later years. So I told it that. I said, please normalize the counts. Why? Because there's an upward trend in the counts. It's probably due to an increase in the journaling frequency. So it does that. And here's what it comes up with. And there you go. That seasonality is no longer showing. That is how you can revise it without knowing how to code, without doing any coding. Now, what if you want to make this reusable? You see that when I gave it 2 different attempts, it came up with much different results. Well, what you could do is you can click here. That little eye icon means visualization. This one is the code. So that's the underlying code that it was using to generate that visualization. Now, you don't need to understand this code. However, if you wanted to get exactly this visualization, or if you wanted to use this as a point of departure for a new one, say you wanted to do it on a different data set, or say if you wanted to add and subtract some features from that visualization, then you could start from this one and then give it instructions for how you want it to modify it. And this is the code. Now we can copy that. We can go into an editor and paste it. And so there we go. We have the code. Now we could save that, which I did. For future reference, what I did was I asked Claude to give me a comment that I could put at the top of this file to describe what it does. And if you don't know how comments work in that particular coding language, you can just ask it to do that for you. I added a copy of the prompt that I used to generate it. And also, just to be complete, I included the response that it gave. And then below you have all of the code. And so say in future, you want to do this again, but you don't want something completely different. You want something pretty similar to what you had the previous time, possibly with a few tweaks. You could upload that code and your data set. And you don't really need to understand that code. It's just so that it has a point of reference. It has something that it can start from. This is a point of departure for it. Okay, so there you go. Viz-Vibing with Claude on your journaling data.